Abacha's seeming entrenched military dictatorship. And he was the man who played a seminal role in the formation of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, that was to become the country's largest political party at the time. Dr. Ekwueme was a cerebral politician. It was he who, at the Constitutional Conference of 1995, conceived and introduced the idea of 6 geopolitical zones. He introduced that idea into Nigeria's political lexicon and practice. An example of his principled politics without bitterness was how he readily accepted the outcome of the Jos Convention of PDP in 1998, where he was denied the party's presidential ticket, notwithstanding the fact that everyone acknowledged his leadership role in the formation of the party and in its activities. Yet he accepted readily the decision of the party to choose another presidential candidate, and he went out of his way to actively campaign for that candidate, General Obasanjo, who won the election. In national public service, Dr. Ekwueme was the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He was known to be an effective deputy to President Shagari, to whom he showed exemplary loyalty. I can recall, during my brief period as foreign minister in President Shagari's second administration, which was overthrown on the eve of 1984 by a military coup d'etat led by the then General Buhari. I can recall Dr. Ekwueme's contributions to the cabinet discussions. His contributions were regarded by all of us in the cabinet as being deeply ingrained and reflective of the versatile knowledge of our country, Nigeria. And among the examples of the far-reaching and abiding institutions that owe their establishment to Dr. Ekwueme's creative and organizational prowess are the nation's indigenous banks. It was Dr. Alex Ekwueme who was the brain behind the establishment of Nigeria's indigenous banks, and I've been interested to see that a chap who founded the first indigenous bank, Otumba Shubomi Balogu, has not stopped paying compliments to Dr. Ekwueme for facilitating his activities. And at the international level, an illustration of Dr. Ekwueme's international public service was his active participation in election monitoring in Zimbabwe and Tanzania. As a renowned architect, he represented the highest level of professionalism. This is evident in the many public institutions and structures in this country, including hospitals, schools, and airports that bear his architectural imprimatur. Dr. Alex Ekwueme was a keen student. As we have heard many times, he obtained university degrees in no less than 4 different academic disciplines. And he was also a very generous man. Having himself been one of the first Nigerians to gain the award of Fulbright Scholarship in the United States of America, he, in his later life, established the Alex Ekwueme Foundation, which is widely credited with numerous awards of scholarships and immense charitable services to the less privileged in our country. On a personal note, Alegi, as I called him, was my friend for over 50 years. It was he who, in 1976, designed and supervised the reconstruction of my ancestral home at Obosi, which was damaged during the Civil War. And he, as Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in 1980, visited me in my office at Marlborough House in London. Then I was Deputy Commonwealth Secretary General. Because we both shared an enthusiasm for addressing the unacceptable paradox inherent in the fact that Nigeria is at the same time a major exporter of crude oil and a major importer of refined oil products, we were both glad to serve on the board of the Orient Petroleum Resources PLC, which remains determined to produce and refine oil in Anambra State. And now to Dr. Alex Ekwueme's family. I leave you with this quote, the quote from the eulogy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for martyred children. Martin Luther King said, "Death is not a period that ends the great sentence of life, but a comma that punctuates it to more lofty significance. Death is not a blind alley that leads the human race into a state of nothingness, but an open door which leads man into life eternal. Let this daring faith, this great invisible surmise, be your sustaining power during these trying days." And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I say adieu to my friend Alegi, Ideoko, Ideaguata, former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Grand Commander of the Niger. We, whom you have left behind, thank you immensely for your noble legacy. Your legacy to our politicians as a role model